Today's lesson, we're going to be looking at 1.5b, simplifying with exponent laws. So we're going to be using all the exponent laws that you learned yesterday and applying them to more complex questions. So we're going to start off looking at some simple questions. Here it says simplify and write as a single power. So this is a review from yesterday. So here we have 6 to the 2, so we have the same base here, and we have plus -6. So it's multiplying, so this little dot means multiplying, so we're adding, but this is a negative exponent. So here we end up with 2 plus -6 is going to give us -4. And then we don't want a negative exponent. It says in this note, we want to write all powers with positive exponents. So we're going to change that to be 1 over 6 to the 4. To the 4. And then when we have a number with an exponent, we simplify, turning it into a whole number. So you put 6 to the 4 in your calculator and you get 1,296 as your final answer for this question. All right, let's look at B. So here we have x to the -4 plus 7. And when you add those together, you get x to the 3. Here we have a division, so that means we're going to subtract. So we have m to the 7 minus -2. And that gives us m to the 7 plus 2, which gives us m to the 9. It turns into a plus because we have a double negative. Down here we have 7 to the 3 minus 4, which gives us 7 to the -1. And then we don't want there to be a negative, so we're going to flip it, and we get 1 over 7. This one, we're going to take the exponent outside the bracket, and we're going to multiply it to any exponents inside the bracket. So now we get n to the 2 times -4, which gives us n to the -8. And we want to get rid of the exponent, so we're going to flip it, and we get 1 over n to the 8. Now moving into slightly more complex question. Here we have a base 2 to the -3, and then in brackets -5, and then underneath we have 2 to the 5. So we're going to simplify this. We're going to do this multiplication first. So 2 to the -3 times -5 over 2 to the 5, which is going to give us 2 to the 15 over 2 to the 5. So we multiplied -3 times -5, and we end up with a positive number. And then here we have a division, so that means we're going to subtract the exponents. So we get 2 to the 15 minus 5, which gives us 2 to the 10, and then you can put 2 to the 10 in your calculator, get 1,024 as your final answer. Here we have 2 separate brackets that are multiplying each other, and you have different bases. So here I have x bases and I have y bases. So remember, you can only combine exponents on the same base. So I can combine these 2 x bases together, and I can combine these 2 y bases together. Now, because I have brackets here, the first thing I'm going to do is see if there's any exponents on the outside of their brackets. In this case, there are not. So once we've gotten rid of any exponents outside of brackets, we can drop those brackets. And so here, we're going to rewrite our x's together. So we have 4x, and then When you have two brackets next to each other, it means that they're being multiplied. So we can look and take this x next. So plus 2. Now we have a separate base, a base of y, minus 2. And then again, it's multiplying, so we're going to add our 3 here. So then we can simplify that. X, 4 plus 2 is going to be x6. Y minus 2 plus 3 is just going to be y. And that's your final answer for this question. In this question, we have a -2 exponent on the outside of very large bracket. So everything is inside one bracket. So we want to get rid of our brackets first. To be able to get rid of our brackets, we have to deal with this exponent here. So we're going to multiply everything by this -2. So everything on the top and everything on the bottom gets multiplied by -2. So multiply -2 to everything. Top and bottom. Okay. So we're going to put -2. Let's do our arrows like this. So -2 on the 6. -2 goes on the 4. Or on the A, -2 with the B. And also on the bottom to the 14, to the A, to the B. So everything gets multiplied by -2. So we get 6 minus 2. A. Now I'm just going to do the multiplication right away so we don't write down as many steps. So 4 times -2 is going to give me -8. And then my next base is B. -3 times -2, so we have a double negative there. That's going to give me 6. Now on the bottom, I get 14 to the -2. And then I have -2 and -2 multiplied together. You get a to the 4. And then I have b to the 2, so 2 times -2. So only one negative. I get b to the -4. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to combine all of my same base. So here I have a 6 as a base. There's no other 6s. I have a 14 as a base. There's no other 14s. But I do have 2 base A's and I have 2 base B's. So I'm going to combine these together and I'm going to combine these together. So I'm going to leave my 6 to the -2. I'm not going to do anything with that. For my A, I get a to the -8. And then this one's on the bottom. So it's dividing. So that means I need to subtract. So -4. And then I get b to the 6 minus, because it's on the bottom again, -4. And I still have a 14 to the -2 on the bottom. So I'm going to rewrite that again, 6 to the -2. I've combined, so a -8 minus 4 is going to be -12. This here, double negative becomes a positive, so I end up with 6 plus 4, which is going to give me 10, and 14 to the -2. So now I want to get rid of any negative exponents. So I'm going to move anything with a negative exponent to the other side. So I'm flipping each of these bases separately. This one is positive, so it's going to stay where it is. This one's going to move up. These two are going to move down. So I'm going to say I flip anything with a negative exponent to the other side. Okay. So this, my 14 to the 2 is on the top now with my b to the 10. And my 6 to the 2 with my a to the 12. Next thing I need to do is I need to multiply these. So I'm going to put 14 to the 2 in my calculator, and I get 196 b to the 10 over 6 squared becomes 36 a12. And then if you can reduce your constants. So I look to see if there's any numbers that I can take out of both the top and the bottom to simplify this fraction. And I notice that both of these divide by 4. So I can just reduce this fraction a little bit. I get 49 b10 over 9 a12. And this is my final answer. Okay. So I have no more negative exponents. I've gotten rid of any negative exponents. There's no brackets. And for my numbers, I've multiplied out any exponents on my numbers, and then I've reduced the fraction as much as I can. So that's for the final answer. So I'm going to do another one. So this one now, it has brackets like for smaller subsections. So with this one, the whole thing was in one big bracket with an exponent on the outside. This one, you have little brackets with exponents on the little brackets. So you have to do each of these brackets separately. So this 2 is going to multiply everything in this bracket. This minus 2 is going to multiply everything in this bracket. And this minus 1 is going to multiply everything in this bracket. So So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get rid of your exponents on the outside of your brackets. So I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to multiply everything inside the bracket by the 2. So I get 3 to the 2. And then I have negative 2 times 2, so that's going to be negative 4. And then I have 3 times 2, that's going to be y to the 6. And now this x is showing multiplication between these brackets. It's not a letter, okay? It's just saying that these two brackets are multiplying each other. But once I resolve the exponents, I can drop the brackets. So I'm just going to keep going and keep writing. So now I have 4 is getting multiplied by negative 2. So I have 4 to the minus 2. Minus 1 times minus 2 is going to be x to the 2. And then negative 4 times negative 2 is going to be y to the 8. So that's my top. And that's over. Now I'm going to resolve this. So I get this negative 1 on the 6, on the x, and on the negative and on the y. So I get 6 to the negative 1, x to the negative 5, y to the 2. So that's my first step. I've now gotten rid of my brackets and any exponents on the outside of my bracket. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to combine like bases. So I'm going to combine my x's together. So there's 3 x's. I'm going to combine my y bases together. There's 3y. And I'm going to move all of my number constants, number bases, I'm going to move them all to the far left-hand side so that we can eventually combine them. So I'm going to say 3 squared, and I'll just use a dot to show that they're multiplying, 4 to the minus 2, and then we get x to the minus 4. So far I just wrote this, I just wrote it there, and then this one, instead of having it in the middle here, I just moved it so it's right next to the 3. Now I'm going to start combining all my x's. So I have x to the minus 4, and then this one is multiplying, so plus 2, and then this one's on the bottom, and it's subtracting, so minus 5. Now I'm going to do my y's. So I have y to the 6 plus 8 and then minus 2 on the bottom. So 6 plus 8 minus 2. And I still have a 6 to the minus 1 on the bottom. So now I can combine these. So I have, this hasn't changed at all. I haven't done anything with this yet. My x, so I have negative 4 plus 2, and then this double negative becomes a positive. So negative 4 plus 2 plus 5 gives me x to the 3. And this one I have 6 plus 8 minus 2 gives me y to the 12 all over 6 to the minus 1. So now I am going to move anything that has a negative exponent. I'm going to flip it. So this one is going to move to the bottom. This one is going to move to the top to get rid of their negative exponents. So I get, go away. I get 3 squared times 6, x to the 3, y to the 12 over 4 squared. So now I need to multiply out any numbers, any exponents on numbers. So I'm going to start working this way. So 3 squared gives me 9, still multiplied by 6. X to the 3, y to the 12. 4 squared gives me 16. Now I'm going to multiply these two numbers together. 9 times 6. 9 times 6 gives me 54. X to the 3, y to the 12 over 16. And then I look at my fraction and I see if I can simplify it at all. So what I can do is I can divide the top and bottom by 2 to simplify my fraction. And I get 27 x to the 3, y 12 over 8. And this is my final answer for this question. So for today's homework, you're going to do page 45, number 6. And I highly recommend that you do not do number 6 in your workbook. You do it on a separate paper. Okay, you really need lots of space like this. You need lots of space like this to do these questions. Number 6 is all questions similar to this or this, okay? You need lots of space. They give you this teeny, tiny little block of space in your workbook. And because you have to write tiny, and people make so many mistakes only due to that. So I highly recommend you take lots of space, write out all the steps that you need, take your time, work on them slowly, and do it on a separate piece of paper so that it's not teeny tiny squished into your workbook.